Hey, welcome Santa Clara Broncos. Anybody's fan of Santa Clara Broncos, family, friends, welcome to Crossing the Alameda, the podcast where we reconnect with Santa Clara University class of 1991 and celebrate the stories and adventures that have unfolded over the years since we left our beautiful Mission campus. I'm AJ Riebli, and I'm here with my good friend and fellow comm major, straight out of St. Joseph's Hall, Charles Michelet.
Hey, AJ, great to be here.
Hi, Charles. Good morning.
Good morning.
Before we dive into this whole podcast, we wanted to give proper credit where credit is due. This whole idea started with our classmate, Mike Klein. Mike reached out to me this summer and was like, hey, I want to do a project. I want to do a podcast. And so we started thinking about, all right, let's start fleshing it out. And we brought Carrie Morin in, and we brought in Charles to help shape this show, to make it kind of a meaningful, bigger, better, what's class of 91 doing in 35 years in the future. We're missing Carrie and Mike today. They both had family obligations. And, that's life. We're in that window where sometimes family is pressing and we have to meet those needs, and they supersede being on Crossing the Alameda. But not today.
That's
Charles.
That's true. Well, this podcast exists because our class is full of incredible people and with a lot of stories worth sharing. And we just want a place to reconnect, laugh a little bit, and learn where life has taken everyone since graduation.
And without further ado, we want to welcome someone who has lived a very memorable Santa Clara story and is here now with us today, Holly Rollo. Holly, welcome to Crossing the Alameda.
Thank you so much. Holly Rollo, formerly Holly Fleming, but since married, just like everybody else. So great to be here. And thank you so much for the invitation, AJ and Charles. I think this is such a great idea to reconnect everybody. It's going to be great.
So happy you're here. Charles, we get a little more about Carrie?
Yes.
Carrie, as in Holly. It's like I go through all the names of my kids, and I might get to the right one. So Holly's here. I'm going to cut that out in editing, by the way.
Okay. Holly lived in the legendary Quake House off of Bellamy. She survived McManus and Sukup, along with the rest of us in the communication trenches. She has spent more than 30 years in tech and cybersecurity, and right now she is literally in the middle of a circumnavigation of the globe on a performance sailboat. And you did show us the view from out of your window before, which looks fantastic.
Show it again.
Yeah.
Show us where you are.
Okay, I'll show you real quick.
Around. Yeah. We need this. Look at that. She's coming
God.
from a boat.
It's so beautiful.
A boat.
Yeah, it also is my work office here. This little doubles as a work office tool room. You can see I have the 40 nearby in case, that's needed for anything. But this is also where I do Zoom calls. So you're right in the belly of the beast here on the boat.
Fantastic.
Amazing. So a few things we actually want to give a big shout out to for Holly, and we're gonna get to it. Holly just passed her French B1 exam. Unbelievable.
Nice.
Yes, thank you. It was a life goal of mine is someday learn French, and I was able to do that. So this year,
You've got to give us a little bit of French. Say something poetic. And for those who don't speak French,
I hope that you're doing well.
Magic. And we're also going to talk. Holly has just published a book. I think we're going to get to that as she got it right there.
There it is.
Good.
She's ready. Power of Surge.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Power of Surge. I love that we're
That
here.
wasn't on my bucket list of things to write. Like, I want to write a different book, but after, 30 something years in the industry, you're like, what's it all for? So I put it in a book. Yeah.
Well, amazing stuff. And what else? We say that you're on the boat. We understand you're going to pass through the Panama Canal. I hear you're going to the Galapagos Islands, which is on my bucket list of places to visit. And then eventually going to land in Marquesas. And that seems like a lot of open ocean to me.
Yeah, it's a lot of water for sure. And just to kind of back up how we got here is, my husband and we had a family experience where something tragic happened, and it suddenly makes you realize, you don't have forever. And we kept saying to ourselves, wouldn't it be nice to sail around the world someday? And wouldn't it be great? But we were both in our tech careers. And then that happened, and it just made us realize, wow, you have all these big plans for yourself that you may not ever get to. So we circled a date, and we have 4 kids. 2 are his and 2 are mine from a previous marriage. And we circled a date when the youngest one graduated high school. And we said, okay, that's the date. And so we started off in the Mediterranean. We've been sailing since 2020, actually before COVID. So this plan was sort of in place before COVID. And we quit our jobs and we downsized and then we started sailing. So we crossed all through the Mediterranean, visited Croatia, Greece, and Turkey, which is amazing, by the way. And then crossed back to the Med and crossed the Atlantic and came to the Caribbean, went all the way up to the Bahamas and Miami, came all the way back down to Trinidad and Tobago for Hurricane Beryl.
Oh,
And yeah, and then so we kind of went from this season so far from Aruba to Panama. We'll cross the Panama Canal and we're on our way to the French Polynesia. So we're doing it. It's sort of, we don't really call it retirement. It's sort of a sabbatical at the moment, and doing a little consulting here and there too in the meantime. And yeah, it's been a really interesting life lesson, where you just sort of do something and the universe opens up new and interesting opportunities for you to discover new things or learn new things. It's been really cool.
That is so awesome. That is so
unreal.
inspiring.
Real.
But let's go back. Let's go back
Okay.
in time.
We're going to
to
go
the
back and we're
Santa
going to come
Clara
back
days.
because that, by the way, I'm
We will
still
come back to
I'm
that.
processing right now. It's
Yeah,
all
Well,
right.
yeah.
we're gonna skip back where it all began. And when you think about your Santa Clara years, like what living situation there do you remember most fondly or the best?
Well, I just remember a lot of the camaraderie. I think it kind of came together more for me, maybe my junior, senior year. I think this is probably true with many of us. The freshman, sophomore years were just kind of a blur. Um, and and just trying to get your footing and figure out, and for me especially, I never imagined myself at a school like Santa Clara. I come from really humble place, and even being able to go to that school was such a gift on scholarships and things, and so I was just in a world that was completely new to me. So the first couple of years were kind of a blur, but I think my junior and senior year, I kind of found my friends and figured out a little bit who I was and that sort of thing. So I think the sorority had a lot to do with that. I think also as a comm major, we were pretty tight, all of us, and I think we all really formed some really great friendships. And certainly going through the senior thesis and all that stuff, and all the senior
That's right. That's
projects
right.
was really good. And kind of figuring out like what do you want to do with your life? And we were all in kind of the center of tech and not really knowing what that was. And so for me, I kind of feel like more my senior year probably was just a potpourri of really good fond memories, I would say.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Hey, the world of fond memories, and we kind of put you on the spot earlier because I think you kind of hit it like in that freshman sophomore blur, and I could have made maybe freshman sophomore junior blur.
Yeah.
What is one maybe kind of like I think we all live in a world like we go, it's a little cringy but kind of funny. Like, is there a slightly like vivid, slightly embarrassing memory or something that still makes you smile or cringe that you think back, you go, oh yeah, that was a little crazy or funny or odd
Yeah,
or
I mean, I guess honestly, you're gonna think I'm crazy, but I said this in an email to you. I have this memory, and it was when we were doing parties in front of Swig, which is no longer a thing because since then my daughter's gone to Santa Clara, and it was totally, I mean, completely a different place. But there used to be the Sig Ep house and the Sig Pie house right across the street, and then that whole street would fill with people. It'd start with the Margaritaville parties, and I don't remember what it was, but I do remember, like, if I were to sum up my freshman and sophomore year, it'd be on that street, looking up and seeing AJ on the roof of a house. Yeah. I am not kidding you. Like, I remember this so vividly, and it's one of the memories that always pops in my head. And I don't remember what you were doing, if you were singing or going to the bathroom or what you were doing exactly, but
could have been both. Could have been
could
both.
have been both. But I just remember it being so, like, thinking to myself, this is nuts. Like, where does this happen? But I guess that's college, right?
God,
But
it all
It
comes
makes
back
me
to
laugh that
AJ.
you think one of the embarrassing or cringy moments is me singing and
Issue.
maybe peeing off a roof. Now, I don't know where I'm
All these
supposed to go with
stories.
that. I guess you go, yeah, yeah. I mean,
yeah, that's
you are
about
talking to
right.
somebody who had to go and talk to the dean of students at the third quarter of my freshman year, and we had that conversation of like, do you still want to be a student here at Santa Clara
Yeah.
University? And my father had gotten my report card, and I'd kind of told him, hey, I need to go. I need to go on rugby tour to Louisiana. I need some money. And my dad gave me the money. And I told him that I got over to, and then I was in Louisiana, and the report card came. And my dad says, how does Santa Rosa Junior College sound? I need you to come home. And I thought, oh, that's it for me. But
Yeah.
God.
we're here to still tell the tales. We're still
Yeah.
alive and upright. And I kind of actually want to hit on something that you said though. Did you realize, and this is kind of open for all of us, did you realize that you were sitting in a tech epicenter in 1990, 1991?
I did. I think it pretty quickly started to dawn on me that I had gotten a couple internships, but one of them was at an electronics company. They made like heads up displays for defense, and I did an internship there, and I was like, wow. I mean, my future's, I'm not going to go to law school. Yeah, I'm not going to be an accountant. Like there's certain professions, exactly what you're going to be. But if you're in comms or marketing or sales or, an econ major, like so one of these, it's like 80% chance you're going to end up in a tech job. I think if you live in the Bay Area. So, and that's kind of what I told my daughter too. I was like, unless you're going to go to medical school, like this is going to be your that's if you plan on staying in the Bay Area, that's kind of what's going to happen. So you're going to make great contacts if you go to Santa Clara for sure.
I mean, that's a good piece of advice. I mean, on your part, I mean, if you thought about it, right? I mean, so much so now, right, that they've rebranded the school's now like a Jesuit university in the Silicon Valley, right? Like
Right,
Yeah.
that's
right.
a plug, right? Like you go, huh? Because, and I think to your point, like you were working. I mean, does it sound like you were working for like a defense? Like who was in the, who was running tech at that time when we were there was like AMD and like there was a
It was
lot
all
of
the chip companies. It
the
was
chip
silicon,
companies
right?
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Department of Defense, right? There was a
Yeah.
lot
Yeah.
of
It was
DoD
early
out there that
days.
if you didn't think
Yeah.
about it, you're like, huh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, we graduated and we were
Yeah.
maybe the first graduating year to get email. Is that right? It was something like that. I
Something
remember
like that.
showing
Started
up.
coming, yeah.
My first job was at National Semiconductor, after I had gotten which I thought that was just so sexy because,
Well, it
they
kind of
did
was.
silicon, at the time. And yeah, I remember like seeing this black screen with words on it. And I was like, that's mail? Like, that's the coolest thing ever, you know?
So fantastic. I loved what you said about the community of the communication department because it was so true. I
Mm.
mean, this all of us together and we had our own space, in St. Joseph Hall with the television studio and everything. But
And everybody was so supportive.
yeah,
It felt like, everywhere you turned, people were rooting for you and you were rooting for them too. It just felt really tight and close. And I hope it's
yeah,
still that way. I don't know, but
me too. Who
Well,
are your favorite
it's a lot
professors?
nicer. I mean, when you look at
yeah,
what Avid dumped into sponsor, I mean, holy smokes.
I know. It's great.
I remember feeling bad if like you broke like, a camera and you had to go see Walt and Walt would be
Walt,
sitting
yeah,
there.
Well,
you're
Walt would be
like,
sitting there
oh
with a
no.
cigarette in a styrofoam cup and you almost felt like you committed murder and
Yeah,
he'd kind of look at you and oh man. And I
yeah.
used to just giggle. I look back on that. I think that is like,
So
that's
bad for
such a
that guy.
remarkable
I
character,
know.
I
you
know.
know?
He
What were
was
you
so
going to say,
beleaguered.
Charles? What were you going to say before?
Poor Walt. He was so beleaguered. But I was wondering some of your favorite professors from the communication department, or
Yeah.
or any professor really.
I mean, I think I really appreciate Paul Sukup. I took a lot of his class. He's such a gentle, kind person. And he was there for me, particularly when it was my sophomore year, my dad died. And he died before finals, before Christmas break, but I learned about it after finals. I wasn't told about it until after finals. And he really helped me kind of process that. And he reached out to me and was really kind. So it wasn't only the classes I took. I think I just really got a lot of good advice from him. And he was there when I needed someone like that there. I think that's
That's
also
wonderful.
I think a really good thing. And I mentioned John McManus because, and I've since heard rumors, so I don't know the story really, but what's going on there. But I always took his classes because they were really hard and they weren't fair. He wasn't always fair.
Good life lesson, I guess.
Found that really useful, actually. So everybody's like, "Why do you always take all his classes?" And I'm like, "Because he probably is teaching me stuff I don't even know he's teaching me." And just how to kind of stay on your toes, how to see around corners. So I really liked that. I really liked his classes a lot.
That's fantastic.
That's some solid self-awareness. Like I appreciate that. I think you nailed it. Like you don't sometimes you're learning and you don't know that you're learning, right? And then I think you get 10 years in the future, right? You're gone, and then you think, oh, there's that life lesson landed for me in St. Joe's Hall in 1990, and I didn't know it at the time. And you look back
Yeah,
and you go, that's the thing. And I agree with you. McManus was brutal, but he was brutal, but like when you go on the one-on-ones and you talk to him about
yeah.
his brutality, he was
He
really
had reasons.
generous
Yeah,
and he had reasons.
yeah,
And I
yeah.
think that, to your point, is sometimes you have to get pressed hard in order to grow,
Exactly,
and I think there's a lot
exactly.
of growth opportunity in the uncomfortableness of tough situations, right? I mean,
That's
Yeah, for
fantastic for
sure.
you
I
to
mean, and I remember when it clicked for me. I was in a journalism one class, maybe because I actually wanted to be a journalist. That was my dream before I got a PR job in tech. We were doing a journalism class, and he's teaching, and then suddenly this guy comes in the room, and he starts yelling at him like, "You stole my wife, you son of a,"
oh,
and he comes in and he's like throwing books at him, and then he leaves the room. Everybody, it was like super awkward, and everybody's like, "What just happened? Oh my god! Like this is so weird!" And oh my god! And he said, "Okay, you, and you come up to the board and write down what he was wearing."
my
And
God, that's amazing.
everybody said different things. So the lesson, so he concocted the situation. So the lesson was like you can't always trust your sources. That was sort of kind of what the lesson was. But it was so memorable.
That's genius.
Yeah.
Genius. Fantastic.
He
That's a
had a
great
lot of those
story.
little situations like that. Yeah, it was
I
good.
love that you remembered that. And obviously I think you would, right? And the fact that I also think, are your eyes deceiving you? Did you see what you
Yeah,
saw? Like that's even questioning
yeah.
your own ability to track a situation, right? I mean,
Yeah. Yeah. So that's what I meant by he used kind of these kind of pretty extreme methods, I think, in some cases. I'm sure there were others that I've completely forgotten about, but yeah.
hey, if you could go back to Santa Clara, right, for day one, and you've been there now, obviously, multiple times since your daughter was also a graduate of SU, like what's the first thing you would do if you went to Santa Clara for one day? Like, is there a first place you'd go to? Is there something would kick off your Santa Clara quote unquote experience?
I think certainly walking through the gardens is always just so beautiful. It's just very peaceful, and I feel a sense of connection when I'm there to the universe or whatever. Yeah, I mean, I always find some peace there. I always like to check out what Benson looks like. It looks different every time I go back, you know.
Yeah, so true.
So different. Every time I go, I'm like, wow, this is a whole new place. And then just to see what new buildings they've added and that sort of thing. I have fond memories of the baseball field there and the soccer field, what used to be the football field, because we were there when, it still had a football team a little bit. And Don Bourdonnais was the coach of the football team, or assistant coach, I think. And he was also the principal at my high school, Santa Clara High School, which is he's the one who encouraged me to apply to Santa Clara in the first place. So yeah, just
Yeah, I was
walking around
remembering that you weren't to Santa Clara High School, Holly.
high school. Yeah.
Because I
Yeah,
think we
exactly.
had
And
remember because I before I went to Santa Clara University, when I graduated from high school, I went on a Hawaii senior trip, and Santa Clara High School was part of my group of high schools that were together in a hotel. So
really,
I was hanging out with some of your classmates, John Raybar and
John Raybar. Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah,
Jaime
yeah.
Ocampo.
Jaime Ocampo. I dated Jaime Ocampo in high school briefly. Yeah, that's so
And so
funny.
I think one of the things that connected me, I remember you going, "Oh, to Santa Clara High School," and I think we had this kind of incident. There was a commonality, the fact that I spent a week in Hawaii
Yeah,
with some of your classmates, and I kind of thought,
that's so
"Oh, that's
funny.
funny."
And the principal of my high school was, well, no, the vice principal. So Bordenave was the principal of high school. The vice principal was Butch Pastorini, who of course was Todd Pastorini's dad, who's passed away now. And I've obviously kept in touch with the Pastorinis, and yeah, so yeah, it was really good times. I think they lived in the house, the box house. That's where I met my husband, my first husband, Jason Rollo, because he lived in that house with Todd and all those guys, Gene
Yeah, the
Elliott.
box out. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So good times.
Cool. AJ and I talk about this all the time about how when we were in school in our 20s, we kind of expected what life was going to be like. And really, it's almost unfair to make a 20-year-old think about, well, what's the future going to be like? Although you have shown an incredible self-awareness and vision, but is there anything from that? Is there anything that you thought back then that turned out to be completely different as you got older?
Yeah, yeah. In fact, I serve on a little advisory board in Santa Clara, and sometimes they ask me to come back, and I do this little talk, 20 things I wish I would have known at 20. And the number one thing is, I think when you come out of college, and or even when you're in your senior year, you have this idea that all these, especially in tech, right? Because it can be really intimidating, or it was then. It may not be intimidating now for new graduates, or maybe, I don't know. But you have this idea that all these really smart people from, with more degrees and more experience and more wisdom are in this boardroom somewhere making up, coming up with these beautiful strategies and plans and visions for the future, for what, all of this like super geeky tech is going to do to make everybody's lives incredible and solve world hunger and world peace. And then you get in the boardroom and you realize people are just making shit up. Like, they're literally flying by the seat of their pants. And so this whole time, for years you spend thinking, well, someone must be like paying attention to this, or someone must be thinking about this, or someone must be. And so I really encourage young people, get in there if you have a voice, because if you have an idea, or if you have a question, or if you have a thought, because the people at the table aren't necessarily thinking about, all of the possible ways to solve the problem, or even may not even be aware what the real problem is. And sometimes young people with different perspective see it so clearly. And so that's what I would love to encourage people, kind of coming into the industry. Like, had I known that sooner, I feel like I could have done more good. Because
Mm,
there's times where you just keep your mouth shut, because it seems like, well, they must have it figured out. Like, it's so dumb on the outside. There must be some good reason for it. You know what I mean?
right,
You're
right. So,
nodding
oh,
your
yeah,
head, AJ. What do you think in your
I've never
life
been through.
experience?
yeah.
I don't know anything. I don't know what you're talking about.
But no, that's
No, I
fantastic advice.
swear, Holly, that is such. I mean, you're so on point with, you know, ask the question, right? I'm always that person. I always tell people, it's like the worst thing that anybody's ever going to tell you is no, right? And so, I mean,
Yeah,
that sounds like a sales tactic, but in life in general, like, it's that thing of like doing improv or doing a scene. Like, life's a bunch of scenes, right? I always think, and
yeah.
so the attitude is like, I can't do a scene. If you continue to not accept my offer, we can't do a scene. And you never know what something that comes out of your mouth stems in terms of conversation. And maybe that kernel of an idea builds into something that's totally mind blowing, right? That, as you said, nobody in
That's
the room
so
has thought
true.
about,
That's
and
so true. And the more ideas you can get out, the better, because you just don't know what's going to trigger someone else to come up with something. So I try to, tell even younger people that have been on my teams, you're expected to plant seeds, and they may have been things that other people have thought about, but not in that exact moment. You just never know the right time for something, so speak up. Yeah.
or sometimes you may say too much. There are people in the room, and I can raise my hand and say, sometimes you have to listen rather than talk. And I think sometimes also you may have the right idea, but if it comes out of your mouth or your
It
keyboard,
doesn't count.
it may
Yeah.
not resonate. And so sometimes you have to find somebody else in the room and go, you know what? I'm going to slide this little note under the door and you take it. And you shouldn't be like, oh, I need the credit, because that's the other problem. A lot of times people are like, I need the credit, I need the credit. But like, if you're going to solve a problem or move something forward, it doesn't matter, because if you continue to stagnate, then you're not solving the problem or moving forward. And so anything you can do to kind of get off the mark,
Yeah.
even if it's, I, I don't know,
It's totally true.
you
It's
know,
totally true, and this is especially true, I think, not to go into too much, this topic, but I think if as a woman in tech, I found that a lot to be true, where it's more about influence, and I'm sorry, I wish these problems were solved with equity in the industry, but it's not, especially in cybersecurity and some other very specific verticals. Is the key to getting progress done isn't always being the one people recognize as having solved it. It's sometimes the person influencing everything else around you so that it actually gets done. And yeah, that's a really important lesson. Yeah.
sadly, and I think I totally understand what you're saying and where you're coming from. Like, yeah, you're right. You're right, and you're right. Like tech's the reason why there's tech bros is because there's tech bros, and they kind of earn that title, honestly, sadly. And but some of the titans of the tech business are people like you obviously. I think you've done really well. I mean, Anna Yen, God bless her soul, was somebody who was very influential in her career and was able to kind of set things up properly and work with really top level tech people. But at the same time, like, are they recognized? Probably not. And that's kind of the sad part. But at the same time, did they accomplish a lot? Yeah, they did. I think
Yeah.
and like, everybody, and I think more than ever, because you have social media and, and everybody has a platform now. And I think you want to be like, look at me, look at me, look at me, look at me. I mean, there's a lot of people look at me versus like, I got that done. I don't need the credit, but like I helped make that a thing, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's like, because so where I'm working in the creative space, like I kind of like I always kind of push creative generosity. Like I want to be a creator, like I don't need the credit, but I want something to be great. And so how do you help
Yeah.
make something great? And like I truly believe when something is really clicking on all cylinders, it's because it's not just one individual that make that thing a great thing. It's the
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 chemistry.
ability to kind
Yeah.
of like make it all work. And we've all been in situations where you're in a situation where like, oh man, that's really working, or you're in a situation like that's not working. Here's and those are rooms that are probably the roughest to be in. Is like that room is not working, and like why?
We're
And
not
sometimes
ready.
the answer.
We're
You
not
know,
ready. That's the thing that I've experienced is just not ready for the amount of change, or ready for the amount of transformation, or ready for the amount of hard decisions. And that's what I see a lot more of is just this and everything's stalled and you're like, but why? It's so sad. If we just like made this one decision, it'd be so much better. Yeah. Anyway, so
let's leave the analog behind. Now let's move into the digital. Like let's talk about like Holly since graduating '91, and we've kind of hit on a lot of nice key notes. Like, what's been happening with you? I mean, we've talked about the sailing, we talked about cybersecurity, we talked about the book. Like, let's give us a little bit of like what's been the major turning points or like the unexpected detours that you've hit along the way. Give us a little bit of like, here's my journey from
Yeah, but
semiconductors to cybersecurity to let's get a boat and let's downsize and kids, by the way, right? So,
yeah.
and passing your
So
French test.
so I guess the big picture. Yeah,
it's
so
a lot.
graduated, and Jason and I got married in '93, I think. And then pretty quickly, we had two kids. I mean, seemed like a lot of people were getting married and having kids, and so that's what we did. We were both in tech at the time. yeah, 16 years goes by, and in the meantime, we had moved to Austin, Texas. That's kind of a big part of the story for 4 years, which is where my son was born. So I have a daughter who's now 30 and a son who's 28. And I'm going to share something really vulnerable that I don't normally talk about at all publicly. So you can kind of say you heard it here first. Is I come from a family that really struggles with addiction. I made a decision for myself at some point to just stop drinking. This year marks 20 years that I've been living in sobriety. And I wouldn't say I had a low bottom, but I definitely was surrounded enough by addiction in my family to see what it looked like, for the sake of my kids and everything. And so I would say that was, I think one of the questions you have is what's your biggest life accomplishment? I would call it that. Because I think if you don't have your health and you're not taking care of your mental health, you really don't have anything. And it lifted a few pieces of fog for me. And yeah, so our marriage didn't kind of survive that change that I made for myself. And wonderful. It was the best divorce in the world. Like, he and I are still friends to this day. I don't like to call him my ex-husband. I like to call him my former husband, because we're now friends and we continue to be friends. And he's since remarried as well, and happy. And then, yeah, I just was in tech and cyber, and met someone who has a dual nationality from France. That's the desire to want to learn French, to speak with his family, and started traveling a lot. And traveling was a huge passion of mine. And on vacations, we would rent sailboats and do things. He's a former racer, sailboat racer. So, it dawned on me one day when we were in the San Francisco Bay, and he's like, "Here, hold the wheel, that like if I fell off, he would turn around and get me. But if he fell off, we'd both die. So I should probably learn." And so that was about 12 years ago. And then I started taking sailing lessons, and one thing led to another. And then, as I mentioned, one of our kids was in a really bad accident, and we almost lost him. He's since had a full recovery, but it was very scary. And I think we were just like, suddenly, wow, we're starting to get on the back nine here. So we better start ticking our stuff off our bucket list. After you pay for college and the fines and the kids start to leave the house, that's your prime earning years, really, for accumulation. And so from a financial standpoint, it seemed kind of silly. But it's like I just got to that point where I was like, I don't need any more brass rings, I think. It's like, what, you're going to work more so you can someday buy a boat and sail around the world, or you can just buy a boat and sail around the world. And, that's that. So we were living in Alamo at the time. We downsized and we've got a little place in Tahoe. So we live in Tahoe in the off seasons, and we rent it out when we're not there. And yeah, so little by little, we're kind of doing a circumnavigation, and we're going to kind of decide if we want to go all the way around once we get to Australia. So that's kind of where we're at.
That's
Um,
fantastic. My God.
I just
Surely.
want to thank you for sharing that, Holly. I mean,
yeah, thank you.
Congratulations on
20 years, God bless you. And I can imagine the clarity. Like it's clear, it's clear how, we've been doing this. You're our seventh guest. And I'm really enjoying having you here today. I think
Thanks.
Charles and I, like, as comm majors, we're very proud comm majors, but like, I just appreciate your vulnerability and your ability to say, like, look, we can get on a boat and do it. Like, I don't want to be 80 on that boat. Like, I'm with you. Like, I'd much rather be 56 years old on that boat. And you've been on that boat now for 12 years. So, good for
Well,
you. I mean,
we've been on the boat. We've been kind of doing this since 2020. But it is very physical. What we do is it's performance cruising. The boat goes fast. So like we were coming down from Panama, or from Aruba to Panama, and we hit 22 knots of boat speed. So if you're familiar with boat speeds on sailboats, it's like 6 knots is kind of sailing. And so 22 knots is a bit fast.
just flying.
So it's a physical sport. And I think the other thing is and one of the reasons why I'm doing it, which I wouldn't have been able to do 20 years ago, is just facing raw fear, which
uh,
sometimes on the boat it's like, this is so great, it's awesome, there's dolphins and butterflies, and like everything's wonderful in paradise. And then some days it's like, oh my God, we're all gonna die. So it's kind of the range of emotions for
What's
sure.
the scariest
Yeah.
situation you've been in so far? Like wave size, or like did you have to weather out like a serious storm? Like what to me, like when you talk about facing fear, and I
Eh,
do think, yeah, I'm already fearful thinking about you in, is it just the two of you on your boat too?
Well, when we do the big passages, we take a couple crew, which is
Big
good
people.
because you
Okay.
need to
Yeah, yeah.
sleep. You need to
Right,
sleep. Yeah. But
right.
I mean, I think it's not so much that we've had a storm, although when we were kind of fear is a funny thing because it doesn't actually exist. Like there's no such, like, it doesn't have doesn't have it's not tangible. It's nothing that actually exists anywhere. It's more like the opposite of courage, really. It's the void of courage is what it is. And so you have to kind of turn it into that. But I would say, when we were kind of trying to anticipate the hurricane and decide what to do, like the deciding what to do, like what if I do the wrong thing? What if I decide the wrong thing? Like that could be, I think that there's a couple situations where we were sailing down, I think the coast of Morocco to the Canary Islands, and we lost our steering, which in and of itself is a big deal, but it's not. There's so many layers. We have an emergency tiller, we have a real tiller, we have two autopilots. So if you lose the wheel, there's different ways to maneuver the boat. But we had gone through the Gibraltar Strait, and I don't know if you know this story, but through the Gibraltar Strait, there's orcas that are attacking boats. And so we didn't know, like, did we lose
yes.
our rudder? Like, we didn't even know what it was at first. But that wasn't the scary part. The scary part was we had an A2 sail up, which is it's a asymmetrical spinnaker, and they're very, very big, very powerful, and very finicky. And if you get somehow a problem or it's a big problem if you have a problem. And so when we lost our steering, we had that sail up, and that moment of, oh my God, we lost our steering. How are we going to get this sail down? And then trying to get the sail down without anybody getting hurt. And by the way, we at the time we were in cross seas, probably 2.5 meters, and the boat was going 23 knots, which is, I mean, everybody's already really kind of the stress is really heightened. So we got it down, we figured out the problem, and that was all fine. But I just think in those moments where you're trying to focus on making the right decisions and being in the present and doing the right thing, I love them because it's like, okay, at the end we solved it, we got through it. But there's these little kind of just teeny tiny moments in that whole thing that you're just scared to death that something bad's going to happen. But something good could happen too, and we can be successful to bring it down and figure out the problem. So, I think that's been for this sailing journey, that's been kind of my own chasing my own demons of like pushing my boundaries of comfort,
Oh, that's great.
just to understand, well, if I got through that, then I can get through this. And okay, if I got through this, then I can get through that. And so I think it's been good because I think it's easy too when you're 30, 35 years around and you're kind of in the same job doing the same thing, and it's easy to be comfortable. Um, I personally appreciate these moments because they teach me something a little bit more about myself every day.
Nice. What are you looking forward for the next leg of your journey that includes the Panama Canal and Galapagos? What are you excited about that's coming up?
I'm excited about stepping foot on terra firma in Marquesas because if you look at a globe, and I invite you to do that, but if you look at Google Earth and you look at between Marquesas and Galapagos Islands, it's a lot of water. And there's actually places on the earth around there where you're closer to a satellite than you are to another piece of land. So yeah, you're totally on your own. I think that's what I'll be looking forward to is getting across successfully and everybody all in one piece.
Fantastic. Maybe we should circle back and talk about your book, The Power of
Thank you.
Surge.
Show the
Yeah.
book again. Show the book again.
Okay, here it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
So it's entirely too long. The audible version I think is better because I made a few adjustments and also I narrated it myself. It's the first time I was in a studio, guys, in a long time, and also like 4 or 5 days. It took a long time. I was like really tired. But yeah, so I kind of this book just started writing itself, because I think after 30 some odd years in B2B tech, I just after all these years, I just keep getting asked the same questions over and over again. I quit my job at the former company I was at, and it got acquired. And I was like, yeah, it's a good time to take a break. Like, maybe we'll go sailing. And that's sort of what happened. And then I started getting calls, and the calls were from people I knew in the industry who were CEOs of small and growing B2B tech companies. And they were calling me asking the same questions that I have been asked uh, 20, 25 years ago. And I'm like, oh my God, like there's all these new people now coming into the industry who are founding their own companies and being their own CEOs that haven't been around the block as long. And we're still asking the same questions. Like, for such a progressive industry, why can't we move it forward? And a lot of the questions are about, like, why does my CMO suck so bad? And, why can't my sales team make their quota? And it's like, okay, let's just break it down and help you understand. And the core thesis of the whole thing is just taking the time and doing the disciplined thought around building a business strategy that all these functions can kind of get behind. So it seems really dull. I do put in some sailing stories that are really good, but honestly, it's just the best practices I've learned over the last 30 years 35, because I just repeat myself over and over again. I built it into an online course, for go-to-market executives. So I get a lot of new chief revenue officers who don't understand that the functions of sales, marketing, and customer success are merging. And especially with AI and a lot of the technologies now, it's just really driving everything into sort of one function. But because these three functions were kind of grew up in silos, they're just functioning the same old way. So there's it's sort of like a cohort that I host and people join and stuff like that. So that's been really nice to mentor new leaders and new executives as well.
Oh,
So,
that's great.
but it
You can find it.
just kind of popped out. I didn't ever have on my bucket list to write a business book. I'd like to write. I have another couple ideas for really good, better books that are more interesting, but that's what happened.
Awesome. And that's on Amazon. Maybe we could put some links up
Okay,
for all
cool.
Yeah,
the
Yeah.
where can we find your book?
It's on Amazon. Yeah, it's on Amazon or Audible. You can listen to the Audible version. Yeah, but it's for CEOs or for small to mid-sized companies. I would say up to about 500 million in revenue, who are trying to figure out their go-to-market strategy and why it's not working, why they haven't landed on the proper positioning and messaging, why they haven't landed on the right channels, why their sales and marketing functions don't agree, and they can't get proper facts and what's broken or what's working. Yeah. So it's really meant to help them just really supercharge and take advantage, especially with AI. I like these companies that are born with AI, and sort of putting everything on this modern AI platforms, are just going to blow straight through companies that have kind of the old thinking. So there's just a lot of traditional thinking, I think, that are holding companies back from being everything that they can be. Yeah. So you can find that on Amazon.
Excellent. Excellent.
Amazing.
You've given such fantastic responses and very thoughtful answers. AJ, you think we're ready for the fast and fun
Well,
five?
let's get to the fast five. But I think before we get to the fast five, and Holly has laid a lot of knowledge today. Man, I'm processing. So good. I mean, really, so good. It's so good to have you on the show.
You're so sweet.
So,
Thank you.
if you could give your graduating SU self one piece of advice, knowing what you know now, what would it be?
That anything is possible. Don't let self-limiting thoughts hold you back. I think we all have them, but you have nothing to lose by breaking free and doing whatever it is your little heart desires. I think when I was earlier in my career, and I would even say up until, I don't know, even late in my career, I was very focused on what I needed to be to prove myself professionally. Now, having just giving kind of myself space, with this sabbatical and with this boat trip, it's like the world is so much bigger. The opportunities are so much bigger. So I think that may be connected idea of a piece of advice is don't limit yourself either by your current perspective. Give yourself and give the universe room to breathe around you. And the things that can come to you, are amazing experiences, people you meet. The people we've been able to meet here are incredible. If we go back to when we go back to land life, I have 1,000 ideas now that I never had before. And so I think it's really important to just not limit your thinking to either what you see or what you feel about yourself, or your limiting factors.
So I got to follow up. Unbelievable. That's an unbelievable answer. Yeah, I mean, self-doubt can really get in the way of success, right? I mean, you should trust who you are. I think what's interesting though, to me, is you're talking about you're on a sabbatical, but what I really feel like you're doing is like, and I don't want to even call it work, but what's interesting about quote unquote sabbatical is actually it's allowing you to foster all these really good ideas and giving you the space to I don't because I don't want to use the term business. I don't mean like work, because we could work our every day of our life. I think when you're saying your sabbatical is actually allowing you to work on yourself, right? I think that's the.
Yeah.
I think when I hear the things coming out of your perspective and your thought process, I'm was like, I want to get on a boat or I want to do something of that level
Yeah.
where I'm on some level of a sabbatical. And I think sometimes people, there are companies that afford you like a 3-month sabbatical or, you take 6 months or whatever. But like maybe it's even there's value like doing a week sabbatical and just thinking, okay, what are the things that I need to do to make the next, 50 years fun? Right. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I
Yeah.
want to be 106, but
Yeah. Yeah.
you know,
You never know. Well, I do think and it's, I think if I were to give that advice, even if it's to take a week to think, is give yourself a week to think, but you can't think about anything related to what you're currently doing, you know? I think that would be a useful exercise because, sometimes I would do this. I would go on my little vacations and I would come back recharged. It's like, okay, and I've really thought about these things and we're going to do this different or we're going to, I'm going to make these decisions. But it was never kind of outside of what was in front of me. And I think that's really, really important. It's just, you have to really at some point, and I think it's around this age, like I said, we've all lost friends now,
Yeah.
to things like heart attacks or cancer or things like this. And you're like, wow, that could, all right. So if I were going to live every day like it was my last day, what would I be doing? Maybe I would want to be on a boat fixing a water maker or scrubbing the decks, or like maybe that's a choice. You can do that or do something else. Um,
I love the story of your journey because as I see it as it unfolding, it's like your personality from in Santa Clara exhibited by I'm going to take this class because I know I'm going to learn things that aren't intended to learn. And what I hear from you talking about your boat journey is like I'm going to learn these things. I'm going to push myself, which is like a fantastic lesson I think for everyone to learn. And it's really inspiring. I want to say it.
Well, thank you for recognizing that. Yeah, the learning mindset is such a gift. I definitely talk to my kids about that a lot. They don't always listen, but
what? Your kids don't listen?
That can't be
yeah.
right.
What are you talking about? I don't know anything. I don't get it. I don't know. That's why you have
Yeah.
to find other people outside of you who can. Once again,
Yeah,
that's the
exactly.
thing of like you might have the right answer because it comes out of your mouth to your kids. It's the wrong answer,
Exactly.
right? So then
It's
you're
the
like,
same in
who do I
business,
know
which is
who
with
I
your
can
kids.
slide that
Exactly.
note to? It's the same thing. You're in the boardroom, you're parenting. It's like,
Yeah.
man, I wish I could land this idea, or I wish I could land this lesson. And then you're like, maybe that should come out of my wife's mouth or my
Yeah.
brother or my dad or you.
Yeah.
It's that thing, right? Like, you know, and they
Yeah,
act like you
exactly.
haven't lived, and they act like you haven't lived a little, right? Like now it's like if you were my mom and I like, you were trying to tell me about how to fix a water maker or how to actually navigate the blues, like with fear, but like quote unquote, as you said, no fear, which is really genius. Why wouldn't I listen to you? I think you are more sage. And like, I'd be like, this person's lived a little. Why not listen to
I
this
know.
human being?
Well, AJ, I
I
think
don't know.
the only hope now is we live long enough to meet that point where they finally come and say, you were right.
Oh,
I say?
I had this moment
Did you have the
briefly.
moment?
I had the moment. My
Tell
daughter.
us. Tell us what it's
So
like.
the short story was, I said, look, you basically grew up we lived in Alamo, which is East Bay. And so Danville is kind of a, white picket fence. It's a pretty, the high school, the kids all go to school with the same kids. And that's what I wanted for my kids, because I didn't have that. So you always want the thing for your kids you didn't experience. And so she's applying to colleges, and she's like, I'm going to go to U of A. And I'm like, that's kind of a big school. Let's, you might want to look at some other schools. And, and I know I'm going to go to U of A. I'm like, so I moved her into college, and I looked at her father and I said, I give her 6 weeks. And 6 weeks to the day, she called me and she's like, I hate it here, all these things. And so I said, well, your grades are your ticket out. You can't get out before I'm not paying for half a semester or whatever. Like, you have to stay through, you have to get good grades, and your grades are your ticket out. Like, you can't just transfer schools without any kind of grades. So anyway, she stayed in, and then a year went by. She ended up transferring to Santa Clara as a sophomore. And about a year after that, she called me and she said, "You were right, Mom. You were right." And I said, "Wait, right about what?" And she's like, "Everything. You've just been right about everything." And then the next time I saw her, she told me how stupid I was about some things. Like, it didn't last very long, but
But you
it was
got
a
it.
little
You got
moment.
the.
I got a
Yeah,
little moment. Yeah. But
take
and
what
the
I
it was
what I've
good.
wins.
just
Take the wins. Yes.
And it
what
was
I've
good that you.
decided, what I've
It was good that.
decided. Go ahead, Charles. Go ahead.
I'm just gonna say it was good that you pushed her too. It was like, say what I was right about.
Yeah. But what I was gonna say is, especially I get mad at my son who's 28, and he doesn't call me very much and barely texts me back. And I'm sure other people can relate to this. They're living their lives. And I think about, when I was in my mid 20s, what was I calling my mom? No, probably not. I was living my life. But every time I start to get a little resentful, I call my mom. And I'm like, "Hey, Mom,
Interesting.
I just love you. I appreciate you so much." And so I think this is how it works. I think, when my kids have their kids, then they'll call their mom and they'll understand. So I think that's just sort of the bigger picture of how that whole thing's supposed to work. At least that's
That's
how I've
beautiful.
rationalized it in my mind. My kids are great. I love them. They love me. It's just they're in this, your 20s and going into 30, you're just kind of doing your thing. So that's good.
I love that. I love
That's
that.
what you want, right? That's what you want,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
You just want
Yeah.
them to stand on their own, be successful, find their own happiness, and
Yeah.
you know, not call you every week, which I think is,
Yeah.
and sadly, which is kind of crazy if you thought about it, you could call. I mean, there are still people I know that talk to their kids 5 times a day. And I'm like,
Is that
okay,
what
but
you want? Yeah, at the
is that
same
what you
time, she
want? I mean, some people do. Some people need that to fill them up.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
you can, there's got to be like a happy medium somewhere in there, right? You want that
Yeah.
connectivity, but like now with this ability to have this over connectivity, I think is
Yeah.
also maybe like stunts your growth, right? Like you're
Yeah.
not, because you can be like, I know where my kid is right now, or like
Yeah.
it's that crazy. Whereas I think back when we were in school, like I might have talked to my parents, like making a phone call was expensive back in the day if you're called from the dorm.
Yeah.
You got that
Yeah.
phone bill every
Yeah.
month. You're like, what? $5? Who am I calling? And
Yeah.
so the first people go out that list are your parents. Like, I'm not calling them anymore. I'll call them like
Yeah.
once every 2 months.
Yeah.
But like
Yeah.
they didn't know what you were doing. You didn't really know what they're doing. And I think you kind of had to be okay in that. Right. And I think on some level that helps you be find your own way. I don't know.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, I'm happy. I mean, she said to me one time, now that I have my own insurance, I don't really need you anymore. And I'm like, yes, awesome, victory. So that was it. Yeah. So I mean, we talk probably once a week for sure, and stuff. But it's mostly my son. He
You-
just never
she,
calls
your
me back.
daughter's a nice. Your daughter's a nice person. I've talked to her a few
Yeah.
times, and I'm glad that she's doing well. And I cannot believe she's 30. That tells you
Yeah.
how like holy smokes, time
Yeah.
flies.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. So,
For
also
sure.
want to just mention, if anybody's interested in sailing or anything, we have a YouTube channel. It's called Sailing Awen, Awen on YouTube, and we just kind of record dumb stuff that we do on the boat. And I don't know if you're interested. It's
Excellent.
kind
We'll
of
put that
fun.
up.
We do that
We-
for it started because my mom was like freaked out. She's like, "Okay, what happens when you cross an ocean? Like, do you stop at night and anchor?" And I'm like, "No, there's, it's like a mile of water." So, she didn't understand what a passage was. And so I said, "Well, it's actually uneventful mostly. Like sometimes there's things that happen always at night, but, for the most part, you're just kind of sailing." And so I did a video for her every day to show her every day what it was like to do a passage. And then we just kind of, I don't do them every day now. I do them about once a week. So yeah, so it's
Oh,
kind of started
wonderful.
out. Yeah, but it's cool too because then we remember also what we did because otherwise you would forget. So maybe when we're older someday and we're in an old folks home somewhere, we can rewatch them.
Yeah, it's a great document. I'm following your Instagram.
Okay,
It
cool.
is a
Yeah,
fantastic document.
cool. Awesome.
Charles, so Holly, we're kind of winding down to the back end of the show, and this is where we like to do what's called the Fast Five. The Fast Five. Now,
Okay.
Charles, we got the
Okay,
questions here in front of us.
we have the questions.
I'm not sure.
Now
I
you
kind of
weren't
like the coffee question. I think we should. I'm not sure. I think that's what we should go with first. What do you think?
the coffee question. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, you weren't sent these questions ahead of time. This is just like 5 questions.
Okay, so I'm
First
put
thing
on the spot. Okay.
You're on the spot. You're on the clock.
You're on the
Okay.
spot. First thing
Exactly.
that comes to your mind. Okay, so we're going to start with the what famous celebrity or historical figure, living or dead, would you like to have coffee with?
The Dalai Lama.
Nice. Why?
Because he seems like he just is a super centered person. And I would love to ask him his perspective on this crazy world right now. I think it would be really
Nice.
interesting.
Sounds good. Sounds definitely good.
Pick his brain a little bit about how to be the calm in the storm. I think that would be probably good advice to hear. Yeah.
Excellent. All right. Number 2. What SCU hangout do you wish you could walk into right now?
Well, of course, we'd all go back to the hut. Now, did they sell it or I was confused?
AJ's
'Cause
got stories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
AJ's
my
not.
daughter,
I'm a
what,
little, and
what,
I probably should edit my opinion because it is still quote unquote the hut. It looks more like a Danny Myers Shake Shack, but I kind of like the grittiness of the old hut. It was just a dive, and there's a lot of great memories and a lot of funny stories and funny people and funny interactions. And there's just I like my dive bars dark, and there's just way too much light in there now for me. It's like you can actually see
I haven't,
people.
I haven't been back. Like when last I heard when my daughter was there, which is still,
Yeah,
she's 30 now. So
yeah.
they were going to sell it or something,
So
or
it
I
got
don't remember
sold. It's under new management, and they've really done a nice job with the place. But it doesn't have the old kind of the old
vibe.
vibe. Yeah, the old vibe.
Yeah. That's
And
too
as
bad.
Charles is more of a Lord John's guy, which I
I
totally.
would go to Lord John's. I miss that place so much.
I was gonna say, like, I think I remember seeing you, Charles, at Lord John's a few times. I don't remember seeing you at the hut.
Yeah, I rarely went to the hut. It was always a confusing, disorienting experience.
And I think that's an interesting, like, that would be an interesting social study, wouldn't it? Like the people that were Lord John's regulars versus the people that were hut regulars. And
Like, how did
sometimes I
their
thought,
lives turn out? Yeah,
I actually just
totally.
thought about it like the hut was kind of more like a meathead, just more kind of clubby
It was
type place.
messy. It was
It was
messy.
messy and more divey. And then
Yeah,
you go to Lord John's and like it was a fern bar, and the clientele, the students
a
there
little
were a
more
little more like
civilized.
They
Yeah,
had
boho,
music, they
right?
had
Yeah, and
bands.
I hate the term boho, but I think it kind of fits in that Lord John's feel. And you,
it was
you
like you
can't
would
go
see
wrong with dollar
students
drink
there.
night.
Yeah, you would see
What's that?
students there, and you're like, "Are you a student there?" And they'd be like, "Yeah," but they were all like law students, and you're like, "I've never seen you before in my life."
Man, yeah, you'd find me sitting in the corner in my beret reading poetry. That's where I was.
That's it. There you
That's
go.
funny.
There's a com thesis right there. Lord
Yeah,
John's versus
versus
the hut.
that.
All right.
Yeah, that's a good one.
So AJ, we're gonna have to edit a question, or else it's gonna be the 5 or the fast 6.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
Okay. Um, is there a food from college that you would never touch today?
Oh, the chicken, the chicken
The chicken
patties.
pucks. Yes,
Ooh.
the chicken
Yeah,
pucks. I forgot about those.
chicken
You
Never
patties.
touched the chicken pat. You think the chicken patty? No.
Well, I remember them being delicious, but I've now spent almost 15 years off of meat products.
Wow.
Okay.
And the thought of putting that in my body seems like a really bad idea.
That's a solid thought. Yeah, it was. You remember it? It was like a solid hockey puck of chicken with a
Do you
bread
remember it? It's like the
coating.
size of my hand,
Yeah.
maybe.
And it was definitely pressed parts. I mean, look,
Yeah. Oh
you
yeah.
know, which
Yeah.
is,
And they just
I don't know. I mean, McDonald's makes a living off of pressed parts. Come on.
yeah, but they just hand it to you. There wasn't any dressing on it. You just, I mean, you could do whatever you wanted with it, but they just
Yeah,
passed it.
yeah, that's true. Like it wasn't on anything. It was just like in a patty.
Yeah, that was it. And it was up to you. It was like choose your own adventure kind of a thing.
Yeah, at the ketchup bar. Yeah,
Ketchup with some, if you want to really dial it up, you throw some pickles and lettuce on there and a slice of like American cheese.
yeah,
Although
exactly.
I think the cheese slices were actually pretty upgraded at Benson. You might even be able to get like pepper jack then. I mean, it could have been like a little more high flying. I don't know. Trying
I
to
don't
remember.
remember.
Provolone, maybe. Oh, the other one was provolone.
Fancy.
Yeah, it was fancy. It's fancy.
That was fancy. All right. Is there anything that you are binge watching or reading right now that you'd like to talk about? Or give some suggestions to us?
Well, I binge on nonfiction survival stories.
Nice. Anything specific? That sounds interesting.
Amazing.
I love them. I love them. There's a podcast called Real Life Survival Stories, which is actually the best podcast. It's got all these crazy stories of people just in these crazy situations and they survive it. And you're like, no way, how did that person survive it? But my number one all-time favorite book of all time, please read it. It's called 428 days or 438 days, one of these numbers, 438 days, I think. And it's about this, it's a true story about this guy. It's not too far in the past either. His name is Salvador Avarenga. And he's a fisherman and he was out fishing and got his boat stopped 800 meters from land. He could see land, but his motor stopped. And he had to survive for over a year on this little panga. And he drifted 600 nautical miles. And I don't want to give the story away, but it's absolutely incredible. And
Awesome.
if you kind of like Life of Pi, if you read that book, it's just like that, like 100 times. It's just it's a crazy story. A survival story is incredible. I also really like Endurance, which is an older book. It's written about Thomas Shackleton, who tried to
Right.
go across Antarctica on a boat and dog sleds, and it's his whole survival story about Charles Shackleton, which is an amazing story as well. So I'm kind of I love those kinds of stories because it's like, yeah, if they can do it, I can survive, like holding onto a mast, being circled by sharks for 24 hours. Like if they did that, I could do that, you know? So I just love the stories of like the human spirit, you know,
Amazing.
and it's all like all of this it all comes down to like how strong their head was. You know, it doesn't have to
Yeah.
do with it's just that human spirit to survive is just so interesting to me. So
Oh, that's
yeah,
wonderful.
please read that
Sounds
book. It's amazing.
excellent suggestion.
Endurance. Amazing.
Awesome. All right. For our next question, let's go back 1991. You're beginning your journey again. You don't go into PR. You have a completely different life. What path would you have chosen?
And no
If you could
skill
have
set required. No skill set required.
Actually,
Like,
it could be
Just,
anything.
could be anything.
That's a really hard question. I think I would want to be an emergency room doctor, like a trauma surgeon. Yeah, I don't know if I'm smart enough for it. When I was learning French, my French teacher, I went to French school this past summer for 2 months. And my French teacher said, "You might have a learning disability." And I said, "Oh my God, my life makes so much sense to me now." No, I just have a little bit of dyslexia. It does make sense because I kind of can transpose some words and some numbers. But anyway, but anything medical has just been fascinating. I've had to take some pretty interesting medical and survival courses as we prepare for this trip. And, you're doing stitches on the pig's feet, and you're learning how to do all these different things. And it's just how the body works is so fascinating to me. I don't know. That would be one thing. I think another, my backup plan would be like, maybe I'd want to be a DJ. Like, I think that would be a fun job. I mean it. I mean
Yes.
it. Like,
Yes.
I made really good mixtapes. Yeah, I would.
What? So wait a minute. So what would your DJ?
I love
What would
that
your
because it's like
DJ handle
completely
be?
different.
I love it. That's so good. We went from trauma surgeon to DJ. What's your DJ handle?
Yeah,
Like what would your
I've given this some thought, actually.
Drop it. Drop it. Let's hear it.
Well, I would be DJ H-Row, like something like that. I don't know. I've dabbled and yeah, I don't have the right equipment and I would have to like invest in something, but it's kind of sad how AI now is doing all this stuff because it's like it's not a lot of incentive to want to learn. Like if you could just press a couple buttons and it can like do it for you. I don't know. That doesn't seem as fun.
But although let's go back to being this Gen X bridge, right? Like who's to say you couldn't go back and go analog, right? Like that's the true thing. Like, yeah, the computer can run algorithms and do, figure out all the beats and where the drops are. But like, couldn't you? I was actually just watching, like, I just watched, speaking of analog, I watched the DJ championships. I got a clip on it like 2 days ago, 1991. It was like the DJ World Championships. And the guy was
Waka
the
waka
guy
waka waka waka.
the guy
Yeah,
was mixing, but the guy was mixing off a reel to reel. He was
yeah.
doing reel to
That's
reel. Like
crazy.
he
Oh,
had
that's
two
crazy.
reel to reels, and I was like, my mind was blown. I said, because I sent it to a buddy of mine who actually does some DJ, and I said, "Hey, happy Friday, you're welcome." And he's like, "What?" And this guy's just fully mixing on two reel to reels, and it was just blew my mind. So I don't think AI is doing
Amazing.
mix. I mean, what if you could just like 8-track it? Can you imagine
Like
like
8 tracks or
some
records,
wild setup of,
get a
of
turntable.
cartridges? I don't know.
Yeah. That would be pretty cool. That'd be
DJ
really
Amazing.
H-Row.
retro.
I'm in for DJ H-Row.
Yeah.
I see some merch already. So,
Yeah, yeah.
all right. Well, this last question seems ridiculous to ask someone that's currently sailing around the world. But what is one thing on your bucket list that you're actively working towards? Is there anything? You,
Well, a successful Pacific Passage would be a good thing. Like I said, I learned French and I did apply for, I have my dossier in with the French consulate to try to get a passport. And so, one of the things we were thinking about is maybe living in France for a while because
nice.
we don't have grandkids yet. So like after we do the boat thing, like would we want to like, and his father passed away this past October and his mom's
Sorry.
getting older. I don't know, it'll be kind of maybe that's another idea. I'm not sure.
Do you have a,
But
do you have a
the food is so good.
Oh yeah.
Like,
Do you
oh,
have
it's just
Where would
do you
you
have a
live?
region?
Where in France?
Yeah.
What
Where?
what would be the ideal place for you guys to
well,
be? Where
we've
families from?
traveled,
Yeah.
as you can imagine, he's from France, so we've traveled all over France. And I really fell in love with Saint-Malo, which is Brittany. So he's Breton. He's originally
All right.
from Brittany, which is they've got their own little thing going on. They were kind of separate from France for a while and not big fans of Great Britain. But it's very culturally rich, very traditional. Yeah, like a lot of the places in France, you go in and you're in the pharmacy or you're in the grocery store and a lot of people speak English. So you're trying to speak French and then they suddenly realize you're from the US and so they start speaking English to you and you're like, "No, no, I'm trying to practice my French." And they're like, "No, trust me, we'll speak English." So, but you go
Ouch.
to Brittany, and they're like so happy you're trying to speak French, and the people are amazing. It's just an incredible place. They say Mont Saint Michel, which is if you've seen the pictures, it's like the big walled city on a hill. And the Eiffel Tower are one and two. Like the Eiffel Tower is the first most visited, and Mont Saint Michel is the second. And so it's kind of near there. But it's an incredible town. And it doesn't get very hot, and it's got kind of the microclimate of San Francisco. So you got to be okay with fog sometimes. But the south of France is just so hot. It's just so unbearably hot and crowded, and there's a lot of tourists and stuff. So I don't know. I think maybe that would be it. Yeah,
We'll
we'll
come
see.
visit.
Yeah.
First question, since you're DJ H Row. So DJ H Row, what song absolutely belongs on your SCU Class of '91 playlist? What is one or two or three? I don't know. What do you? I mean, I'm sure you threw down some really good mixtapes during that late '80s, early '90s
Well,
period.
I mean, Squeeze comes to mind. That was a big one, of course. UB40, obviously B52s. You remember all that. Oingo Boingo,
Mm.
Dead Man's Party. So that was a big one we used to play at the baseball games. Yeah, I mean, there were so many. There's so many. I listen to music now and I'm like, I don't get it. Like it all kind of sounds the same. So I honestly think like that late 80s, early 90s was probably when the best music existed. All of the early rap I think is really good. So Fight the Police, it's all good.
It is all good. I agree 100%.
Yeah.
So good.
Cool. It is
So
so
yeah,
exciting to catch up with you guys.
you
This has been
too.
a
Yeah,
highlight. Yeah. Thank you for inviting me.
We
it was a
we're we're
pleasure.
we're thrilled, we're thrilled to have had you here. So hey, we're gonna wrap it up. You got a message for your class of 91 community, as we head toward the reunion. I mean, maybe you're gonna be there, maybe you're gonna be on a boat. If you're not gonna be there, here's your shot to give everybody a little love.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. I hope everybody, I don't know that I'll be able to make it this year, obviously, but I hope everybody really enjoys themselves and just remember to live every day like it's your last day. That would be what I would wish for everybody is to just, get the most out of every single solitary day because you just don't know when the end's going to come.
Thank you.
So, this is tomorrow they light the pink candle, right? We're in Advent season here in the month of December. And so, just a reminder that the Advent calendar, the pink candle represents the ability to rejoice. And so we want to just remember that, to live those moments, right? Rejoice in the day, rejoice in the time that you have, right? And I think that, it is a season of light. It is a season of birth. As I talked to my dad, and my dad's like, well, I'm a lot closer to being dead than alive. And I'm like, well, that's one way to look at it, right? But, think that you gotta make them count, right? You gotta make those days
For
count.
sure. Have to make them count.
And
Yeah.
yeah, your story is so inspiring. We are so
Well,
looking
thank you.
forward to watching your journey on the internet as you go across the globe. And
Yeah, thanks.
we'll be watching. We'll put up some
I need the
links.
moral support some days. So,
You're gonna
got
get
it.
you're gonna get it. You're gonna get it. And if people check out the what's the YouTube channel again?
yeah, it's Sailing Awen, Awen, Sailing Awen. So at Sailing Awen. We also have a channel, Sailing Awen, at Sailing Awen on Instagram. But the videos are kind of where we put everything. If people are interested or care about sailing or just want to see us like make mistakes and learn things as we go along.
Excellent.
Oh, amazing. So hey, everybody, all our classmates, and our Santa Clara community and the community at large. We want to thank you for joining us today. If you want to suggest a guest or share a memory, email us at crossingalameda@gmail.com. That's crossing Alameda, Alameda, Alameda.com at gmail.com. And we look forward to connecting with everybody soon. Go Broncos. And thank you, Holly, for sharing an amazing hour with us. We cannot thank you enough. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you
Peace.
so
And be
much.
safe. And be safe. We love you. Thanks,
Yeah,
all.
you got it. Bye.
All right.